Most people think building AI agents requires months of coding and tons of programming language, but what if I told you by the end of this video, you'll have your own working AI agent done? No code, no confusing setup, just a simple step-by-step guide into building your first agent today. Before we begin, what is an AI agent? Well, an AI agent, you can think of it as a digital worker that does stuff for you. In short, you could probably ask ChatGPT a lot of questions and it'll probably answer back in text form. AI agents are pretty much ChatGPT with the ability to call different tools outside the platform. So they can perceive what's going on based on the data that you feed to it and what accesses you allow to it. They can also think and decide what actions to take based on information provided to it in its system prompt. And finally, they're able to act using the tools that you provide, whether it be send emails, send Slack messages, or even plan a vacation. They can book the flights and everything. Now, there are only three main components when it comes to AI agents, one being the brain. This is how it actually thinks and reasons. And there are three main providers here. There's OpenAI, there's Anthropic, and then there's Google. The next component are the tools. What can the AI agent do? Because an AI agent without tools is pretty much a glorified chatbot. So these are external systems the AI agent can actually call on. This could be looking at spreadsheets, sending emails, talking to people. And the final component is the memory component, which is the context provided. This allows the AI agent to remember your past interactions, preferences, and data, so you don't have to repeat it every single time. So if you're booking a vacation, it needs to know your preferences. Do you want to fly first class, business class, economy class? Do you want to stop in the middle? Do you want to go nonstop? Instead of prompting it every single time while booking a travel, it'll just remember your preferences. So these are the big three: brain, tools, and memory. Those are the key components of an AI agent. So today I want you and I to build an AI agent together, and this agent's going to be a social media strategist. So instead of us browsing Reddit, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube for viral video ideas, what if we could just prompt our AI agent a certain topic like tech, AI, fashion, and it will come up with 3 viral video ideas that we can actually use for our next videos and be our strategist. So we don't have to pay someone to do it. So here's how it's going to work. We're going to actually connect it to our phone via ElevenLabs, which is pretty much a voice AI service. And we can ask questions like, hey, what are some viral topics? Given this, it should look up the latest articles via Perplexity, which is pretty much Google and ChatGPT if that a baby, and find the latest articles and trends around these topics. Cool, so let's go ahead and begin now. All right, so we're going to be using an orchestration tool. And orchestration is pretty much a fancy way of plugging different inputs together called N8N. There are different tools like this. There's Make, there's Zapier, and N8N are the largest ones in the space. So you can actually use N8N for free. You can actually self-host on your own computer, but it is a bit more complex to set up. We're going to be using N8N Cloud, which has a 14-day free trial where you can actually follow along with me. And this is pretty much allows us to put all these things together to create our AI agent. The next tool you're going to need is ChatGPT. This is going to help us build our system prompt. We're going to need ElevenLabs open, and we're going to need Perplexity open. With these 4 tools, we'll be able to create our AI agent from scratch. So I want you to go ahead and click on create workflow right here, and this will take us to our editor. So in N8N, we have to play with something called nodes, and I want you to think of these as sort of like Lego blocks that you put together. You can snap these nodes or Lego blocks together, and data will actually flow through each one of these nodes into a sequence. And different nodes will have different jobs. Some nodes will be to trigger the data. Some nodes will be to send emails. Some nodes will be to use AI. But the 3 main types of nodes you're going to need to know is the trigger node. This pretty much will start the workflow. An action node. This will do something like send an email. And finally, a logic node, which adds conditional or branching towards it. So in our case, we're going to want to start with a trigger node. So you always need to start with some form of trigger node. In our case, we're going to be using a node called a webhook. A webhook, you can think of this pretty much like a doorbell. We're going to be basically talking to ElevenLabs, and ElevenLabs is going to ring the doorbell to N8N and say, hey, we need to actually use your tool right now. So just go ahead and create a webhook, and what you want to do is change this HTTP method to post, and you want to change this to production URL. So make sure you click on this tab and copy this link. The next step is to actually click on this respond. We want this entire workflow to run. We don't want it to just respond immediately, right? So we're going to do respond using respond to webhook node at the end of this AI agent. So the next step here is to actually create our agent in ElevenLabs. So this is actually what we're going to be speaking to via our phone and going to have a conversation with. So make sure to go to ElevenLabs.io. Then you need to go click on this agents button right here and click on new agent. So in our context, we're going to be using ElevenLabs as the voice for agent. So N8N is going to handle the backend, which is the workflow and logic. Perplexity, which is going to be the tool, is going to do the research, and ElevenLabs is going to make the agent talk back to us. Instead of just texting it, we can actually have a full-on conversation with our content strategist AI. So next up we want to do is click on new agent right here. We're going to be creating an agent from scratch, and we're going to call personal assistant. You can say personal assistant right here, and we're going to call this social media strategist. And then the goal of this is like help come up with viral YouTube topics. We can go ahead and create agent right here. And now we should have our agent created. In this panel, you can actually choose your agent language. You can choose English, Hindi, Chinese, Croatian, whatever you want. We're going to be choosing English for this sake. And then you can click on first message. So first message is what it's going to actually greet you with. In our case, we want to say, hey, I am a social media strategist. What YouTube topics are you interested in? Will be the first message, and make sure to always save. It's very important to make sure to save this. The next thing we need to do is set up our system prompt. So system prompts are a little different from user prompts. You're probably used to using more user prompts when you're using ChatGPT. System prompt, think of this as like the rules the AI is going to follow. It sets the behavior, tone, and role of the AI. So an example of this, hey, you are a helpful content strategist who always speaks in simple, beginner-friendly language and gives 3 actionable ideas. A user prompt, on the other hand, is something you're probably already using. This is the actual request or question that the person's going to give. So give me video ideas about AI agents for TikTok. So that's the difference between them. So system prompt is pretty much like a job description, and user prompt is the task request you're giving to someone working a job. That's a high-level understanding of what they are. Now we can actually jump into ChatGPT, and we want to ask for a system prompt for ElevenLabs. So, hey, can you provide a system prompt for ElevenLabs with access to one tool, research, called research. It should always prompt. And this tool will be helping the user come up with social media strategy. Keep it simple and friendly. So let's see what we get here. Usually it requires a little bit of back and forth and tweaking, but we'll see how this goes. Okay, this works. This is pretty easy. Let's go ahead and add this to our system prompt right here. We could add a bit of guardrails. So guardrails are pretty much to avoid any like profanity or anything bad. While making AI agents, typically, even for my own AI company, we try to include guardrails so you can't access the system prompt or you can't ask anything unrelated to the task at hand. So you can be like, hey, can you add guardrails to this as well? So let's see what happens. There we go. Let's go ahead and add this to ElevenLabs. We can go ahead and save this. It's using Gemini 2 Flash. Temperature, think of this as like how random you want it to be. Do you want it to be really strict on brand with what you're doing, or do you don't care? Do you want it to be a bit more random, a bit more creative? So typically, I like to be a bit more deterministic. Some people, when they create AI agents, want it to be a bit more creative, but we're going to stick with deterministic in this end. And then we need to create the tool. We need to create the tool where it actually accesses our N8N workflow. We're going to go ahead and add tool, and we're going to add a webhook tool. And we're going to call this webhook tool research. And then we can ask ChatGPT, help me configure the tool. What should the description be and body parameter? We're going to vibe code this. We're going to call this a tool that searches for insights and examples. And this is where it gets important. You need to click on post. We need to make sure this matches up with post, same with N8N, and we're going to take that N8N link and post it here. So let's go to N8N, click on our webhook again, click on production URL, make sure this is set on post, and then copy this over. Then we can actually copy this over and paste it here, and we have our webhook enabled. Now, this is where it gets important. We need to actually have one body parameter, and this is going to be called query. We see query right here. That looks good. Let's say we're going to call this query, and then say this is the topic to look up. Topic to look up. Okay, perfect. So at this point, the tool is done. We can actually add this tool in, and we want to save all of our work here. And now we want to go finish building our AI agent. Next part, we need to choose our brain. How does this reason? What language models are going to use? And you have a few different options here. You have Anthropic, you have Gemini, and you have OpenAI. I typically like to go with OpenAI. You can also use this thing called OpenRouter, which you can see right here, which is pretty much a gateway to other AI models. Instead of just being locked into OpenAI or Anthropic, OpenRouter allows you to access many different LLMs all through one API. So it's kind of similar to how Stripe works. In our case, let's just use OpenAI, and we're going to be using the model 4.0 mini. Now, a lot of you may be wondering, how do you actually connect your API? All you need to do is create new credentials here, and you need to go to OpenAI's website, not ChatGPT. You might be paying for ChatGPT, but you also need to pay for these API keys on OpenAI. So it's pretty simple. All you need to do is go to this website right here, platform.openai.com, and you need to create an API on this website. You just need to log in and add it. There are tons of tutorials online on how to do this. It's very simple. And what you want to do is copy that key over, and you want to paste that key right here, and that's how you connect it. Next part is choosing your model. We're going to choose 4.0 mini. There we go. And now we want to choose our tools. What do we want our AI agent to do? And in this case, we wanted to search the internet, right? To research, we're going to choose our Perplexity tool. And same way we created your OpenAI tool, which you should have done, go ahead, go to Perplexity, and then create an API here as well, where actually you can use this tool. So pretty simple. Go to docs.perplexity.ai and getting started overview, and then you can actually create an API here. This will give you a full tutorial of how to do it. Next, we want to choose our model. We're going to use Sonar just to keep it simple. And we're going to say, hey, let the model define the parameter for text. So this is what it's actually going to be searching up. And we want the AI agent to determine that. And we also want it to simplify the output. And we're going to call this tool research. Now, the next step is to actually add our webhook response. It needs to respond back to the webhook, right? It needs to return data back. This is going to return all the stuff it just did, all the research, back into ElevenLabs where it can actually speak to us again. Now, the next thing is we need to create something called a system prompt, which I already quickly described. The system prompt is pretty much how it's going to think, and you can actually use ChatGPT for this. Can you create a system prompt for an AI agent in N8N that is job is to take the query from ElevenLabs and put it into research tool, which is Perplexity. Apply conversationally, include guardrails, don't include URLs, make it a conversation. Sorry, this is a bit repetitive, but let's see how this works. So we have our guardrails, we have our conversational flow, and then we also included some examples. So this is a perfect prompt. Let's go ahead and see if this actually works. This is where the vibe coding comes in. We'll add an option. We have to add in system message. Let's go ahead and paste this in. Let's fix this up. Remove all the extra stuff that isn't part of the prompt. I think this is fine. Let me just read it one more time. So our AI agent should be working properly. It has a brain, it has a research. We're not including memory because we don't need it in this case, and we're gonna be able to respond to webhook. At this point, we can test it out and see if it works. And I'm gonna go ahead and send myself a link to this to use on my phone. And in order to see your N8N or your workflows that are being executed, all you have to do is go click on this executions tab right here, and you can see what executions are being used for your project. So let's see how this works.
Hey, I am a social media strategist. What YouTube topics are you interested in?
Hey, I'm interested in AI agents.
I have run a search for AI agent social media strategy, but I didn't find much. I can still help you brainstorm some ideas, but they might be more general.
So now we have an error. Let's go ahead and debug and figure out what is going on. So I'm going to click on AI agent right here, and it looks like the chat input isn't working here. So all you need to do to debug, if you're going to vibe code, basically this data point isn't in our inputs. So we can go ahead and go to ChatGPT. We can input the error message. We can copy the JSON of what we're receiving and we can paste it into ChatGPT. And then this should actually debug and tell us how to fix it. We basically want to add in that query right here under body, and we need to put that under the user message. And right now the connected chat trigger node isn't doing that. So we'll need to change it to define below. Okay, so let's go ahead and copy this and let's go to our editor. And then we need to do define below, and I'll paste this in. And see what else is said. So let's go ahead and test this out. Let's see if this works.
Hey, I am a social media strategist. What YouTube topics are you interested in?
Yeah, can you tell me a bit more about AI agents?
I can definitely help you brainstorm some social media content around AI agents. To give you the best ideas, what specifically about AI agents are you hoping to cover?
Let's talk about N8N.
Okay, N8N. To make sure I'm on the right track, are you interested in content ideas, growth tactics, engagement tips, or something else related to N8N on social media?
Anything's fine.
Okay, I have some social media strategy ideas for N8N. Here are some ideas for content. Share quick automation tips using hashtags. Publish detailed posts about how businesses can streamline operations with N8N. Create visually appealing infographics or short video tutorials that illustrate specific automation tasks N8N can handle. Here are some specific use cases. Use N8N to turn web articles into social media posts automatically, enhancing engagement. Automate publishing across multiple social platforms to maximize outreach. Encourage users to share their unique automation workflows and provide feedback on N8N's features. Next steps. Develop a posting schedule that includes
That should be good. Thank you. All right, so our AI agent works. It actually was able to use Perplexity. We can actually dive into our executions and see what happened. So it looks like the input was social media strategy for N8N, and the output, what we actually get, is right here in the data type. It gives us a social media strategy for N8N. Should focus on automation capabilities with engaging users through practical use case and tips, which is exactly what I'm doing right here. All right, so basically it was able to output all of this. We can actually see it in our execution right here. If you click on respond to webhook, you can see what it actually outputted to us. And to be honest, it was a bit too long, right? But basically what it did, it gave us some content ideas for Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and gave us a bit of use cases too. So there you have it. Without any code or complex setup, you were able to build your first AI agent from scratch. And this AI agent's pretty useful, right? It can actually come up with the content strategy for you, with people paid thousands of dollars for content research teams. And to be honest, we just touched on the surface of all of this. You can do so many more things, such as logging, sending this via Gmail or Slack, and the possibilities are really endless once you get the foundations in place. So if you want more step-by-step tutorials, I'm going to leave a link below to my community. It's completely free. There's a full free AI course you can take advantage of right now. Just go ahead and click that link and make sure to like and subscribe.